all started with an idea.
Okay, about, I would say 8 months ago now, it was in August, Mr. Knapp sat my AP English class down and told us of the idea of a senior legacy. He said that every senior class at Buhler High School has to set out and create a legacy for future senior classes to follow. In this, I guess this is the first time I had an idea, or that I started believing that I wanted to do something important with my senior year. You know, before I just wanted to get through it because I knew it was going to be incredibly difficult at the end. But I guess this gave me a sense of purpose, and I realized, I remembered that my father had been in contact with a project to try to help a teacher in Nepal over the last year. But unfortunately, I had heard that this project had failed because of the strict Nepali customs, and they were unable to send any educational supplies because of the high tariff that was charged upon those supplies. So around October, it was the first week of October, I had my first Skype conversation with Govinda Panthy, who is the teacher of the school, or the SAV school in Nepal. We first talked about what his school needed most, and he said that he wanted to give his students an opportunity to learn about the world. So the initial idea was to bring a library to his school. And right here is Govinda. Unfortunately, with the first part of the project, there were a few difficulties which marred us throughout the entire process. The first one was definitely communication. This was because the only way Govinda could get online was by walking an hour to an internet cafe. And this meant that obviously he's not going to be able to be online every day. And unfortunately, he usually can only be online about twice a month. This meant whenever we missed him, or whenever we had a crucial question to ask him about his school, or about how to perhaps wire the money to his school, or how to coordinate with him in the future, he would usually be unavailable just because of his circumstances. This made things incredibly difficult for us for the project as a whole. Also, coordination was an issue. At first, the senior officers also had a role in this. They were in charge of getting the library to the school, or they were the ones that were leading the student body, I would say. But unfortunately, it was difficult at first because whenever I would get information, I would tell Mr. Knapp, but sometimes Mr. Knapp wouldn't relate to the senior officers, or the senior officers would hear something, but they wouldn't tell it to me. Whether that would be about fundraising, then when Govinda would ask me about fundraising, I wouldn't know what to tell him. So there were a few difficulties with the project with the initial project, that made Jake and I want to do something different to solve these problems. And here we are.
Okay, so how I first got involved with the project basically was Ben approached me with a different idea for a senior project. He wanted me to help him film this documentary about animal shelters and euthanasia. And I was all on board for that because filming is kind of like a passion of mine. So I really wanted to use that as kind of like an experience to get my foot in the door. But then a couple weeks later, when Ben was having trouble with the Open World Project, getting everything organized, he came to me and wanted us to shift our focus to that so that we could basically spend more time on that and get more resources and such. So he asked me to film some of the behind-the-scenes stuff for that and maybe make a documentary out of that. So and I agreed, and that's how I got involved.
I don't know, something catchy like, D-gap was kind of like a, I don't know. We don't want to do gap because that has negative connotations. We can't just do global access project. Because that, yeah. I mean, bridging the gap sounds like a. That's my dad's. No, bridging. Yeah, digital gap. Bridging the digital gap? Yeah. Bridging the digital gap. Hold on. BDG.
I don't know. I'm
BDG. You like that?
just
Did
phrased like. It sounds good for like a slogan, but like it's phrases though. I'm just not a like as like phrases is like because isn't it also function as like a like company names
Yeah.
and that just like it works as like a slogan, but like as a company name though. That's what I'm.
Okay, so like opening. We wanted something like opening the world.
I know like these but like these like work as slogans though and then they work perfectly for that. That's what I'm like. Well, I mean like it's fine, but.
Also, Jake does have a point. What I'm thinking, what you're talking about today is that we don't want to end it after we've gotten our laptop. So we want something that's kind of like broader, like that.
Yeah.
We continue to the open world project. Okay.
Oh wow, that's great. So, what you saw right there was actually the part of the filming process that I did, and that was when we were coming up with the name and such, and we thought that was kind of a cool clip to showcase some of the stuff that we did. We used all kinds of different mediums to integrate technology into the process. Our first video that we filmed to get everybody hooked into the project, we used actually cell phone cameras because we wanted to project an idea of maybe like not like of a big production, but for the first video we wanted it to showcase kind of like two high school kids got together to film something and they had an idea and they just wanted to showcase it to the world. Not like, because when people use these big Hollywood production values, it kind of takes the human element out of it. And so we thought that maybe by using lower budget like cell phone cameras that it would actually, make the project more relatable to everybody else. And we also incorporated various different kinds of websites into the project. Websites like Facebook and Twitter, social networking to get more people involved, people from all around the world, not just locally. We used Facebook to give people updates and to showcase videos and such, and we had people from all over the world become fans, people from Singapore all the way from Canada to Singapore. So that was quite impressive. And Twitter we also used to give updates, and that was actually also quite successful because we had companies like Skype actually take notice of the project and tweet about it, and that was pretty impressive as well. And we had our own website that we used, which you can see right there, which pretty much gave information about the entire project and also allowed people to donate right on the site with the donate button. And some of the, back to the filming aspects of it in the documentary, we used my own personal handheld camera that I got for Christmas because I wanted to test it out, and it was actually had a lot of high quality HD film on it, which was pretty cool, to actually be able to work with some of that stuff. It also kind of posed a problem though when we wanted to import all the film over to the Mac because the video files were different names. So we spent a couple hours trying to find a video converter to convert all the video files to the right format to be able to use in iMovie. So that was kind of a pain, but somehow we were able to work everything out, which worked out good.
Alright, I think we start out with the globe, and like on the globe, we have like the US, and then that's when you're like, when you start off, like I live in Hutchinson, Kansas, that's about yada yada 10 miles away from here. And then and then I'll take, I think how we can do that is when even though we're at your house for that scene, we'll flip around the camera, and then we'll start the scene where I'm at Inman with a flipped camera, so it's like I flipped from your house,
with the first video is that we wanted to create something that could potentially go viral. With the internet today, if you can create a message or a cause that can be explained within 1 minute, you can potentially get a lot of people on board with trying to help you with your mission. We didn't want to create a 5-minute video where we just sat down and explained the whole project, because I mean, it's kind of inevitable when you get an email with an awesome video. If you see it's 5.5 minutes long, you just put it away in your tabs and then you forget to watch it usually. So the first video was only about a minute long, and it really explained the most important aspects of the project. Essentially, our goal to send 2 laptops and internet access to a school across the world. Another huge issue at the very beginning is that we had to be legitimate. We worked with ESDAC, Center for Leadership and Learning. Pete Ludrigan at the Center for Leadership and Learning graciously allowed us to use his foundation to collect money, which potentially legitimized our entire cause. Because as nice as we are as 2 18-year-old guys, if we say, hey, the money will be kept under our mattress, I have a feeling we would have lost a few people because of, obviously we're not exactly too trustworthy. We haven't earned that respect yet. And also, we can't exactly say, hey, we know this Nigerian prince, I mean, he's great with money. In fact, he'll actually, with just $3,400 and your social security number and your bank account, he'll give us $1 million in return. Obviously, when everyone receives email forwards similar to that, it's going to cause at least a little bit of skepticism. So we had to make sure we were legitimate from the very beginning. When the project actually launched, we were amazed with how it took off. I think on the 4th day we had 5 fans on Facebook. Then when we checked back on the 5th day, that turned to 32, and then that just took off from there. With the video helped spread awareness because we posted the video on Facebook and we posted the video elsewhere as well. And when we got the PayPal link from ESDAC Center for Leadership and Learning installed on our website, donations started flooding in. Within the first week, we had $371, and with this, Mr. Knapp, our English teacher, emailed not only the video to Cake News, but also emailed exactly what we were doing as well, which caused Cake News to unexpectedly come down to our school. Jake and I were actually sitting in the library I was planning to go to his house. I think we were going to play Final Fantasy or something. We had a great night planned, let me tell you. And then Mr. Knapp comes in and is like, oh, hey, Cake News is going to be here in like an hour, so if you guys can just be ready or have something prepared for that. And I think this was my face when I found out about that. Hold on. About like that. It was unexpected, and the major problem with the Cake News broadcast was that they had nothing physical to film. We created a website and a video, but they can't actually show that in a Cake News broadcast. They need something that they can set their camera on for B-roll footage while they're explaining what we're doing with our project. So in that hour, Jake and I designed something that they could film. What we did is we crafted an idea where they talked about our past senior legacy projects at Buhler High School, and they could incorporate that into what we're doing now. And they were able to use, we had it projected on the library wall, and so they were able to take shots of that as well as shots of the library as a whole, because while we were getting 2 laptops and internet access to the school, we hadn't forgot our initial goal of bringing a library to the school. And this broadcast, I think over one day after the broadcast, we went from $371 raised to $750 raised, so it really blew the lid off the project. And with seeing this broadcast, the Hutchinson News actually called Buhler to ask for an interview with us. And
well, when we first got in contact with the Hutch News, we didn't actually think that it was going to do anything, since the Cake News broadcast already pretty much covered everything that we thought it was going to cover over a wider span of area than what the Hutch News would. But what we didn't anticipate, though, was that the Associated Press would actually pick up the Hutch News story and circulate it around to other newspapers, which brought in a lot of different people that we never would have expected, including a person who would actually change the landscape of the entire project, pretty much. His name was Nick Lal, and he actually went down to Nepal, and he was going down to Nepal for his bride to meet her parents and all that. So he had set Google alerts to actually pick up stories from Nepal so he could learn a little bit more about the place. And he kept getting these news stories over and over again related to our project. So he figured that he should get in contact with Ben and see if he can go down there and actually do anything that might help with the project. And so we actually went and visited the SAV school, and some of that Nepal footage that you were seeing earlier actually came from his visit down there. So that was way more than we ever could have imagined. He helped so much.
Nick here is showed right here of the Skype conversation with Jake and I. He is from Dallas, Texas, and when he first messaged me on Facebook, I was actually admittedly kind of skeptical because it just seemed too good to be true. Hey, I just read about your project on it was a paper in Texas, and I'm going to be 30 minutes away from there 3 days from now. Do you want me to go to the school and see what's going on? And I thought, it's almost too good to be true. I didn't know what was exactly going on, but 3 days from that point, he started emailing me pictures and emailed me a video of those videos that you saw in that interview, Govinda. And that, I think, pretty much, I think after that point, we realized exactly what we were doing for the school. Because it was the first time we saw raw footage of the conditions of the school. And if you saw the video earlier with Govinda, it looks like he's 6'4" or something like that because the ceiling is right up to his head. But in actuality, he's only about 5'7", and there's no electricity at the schools. He has electricity at his house, thankfully. That means so that he can use the laptops and bring them to the school. But also, there's no plumbing at the school either, and many of the students, we found out from Nick, had to rewash their paper so that they could use it again because they don't simply have the funding to have new supplies of paper. So that showed us exactly what we were doing and how important it was with what we were doing, because if we could succeed in our goals with 2 laptops and internet access, that could potentially change the lives of these children and give them a whole new mechanism of which they can learn. And potentially, the whole goal of this was to just get our foot in the door. The problem was that the initial goal was the library project, but we thought these laptops could potentially open the door to the library project and other projects of that nature. So we were hoping that this could potentially change the lives of these students. But unfortunately, right after Nick came into the picture, we started having it was probably the most challenging month we've ever had of the project. I became sick, more sick than I've ever been in my entire life. I was confined to my bed for about 2 weeks, and I lost 12 pounds. I'm still not exactly sure what I had. I was running a 104-degree fever, and Jake, this was all the while Nick was still in Nepal, while he was attempting to do this incredible favor for us and, help out the project. I wasn't even online. I could barely function or think or know, what color was blue from the color of red. I didn't know what was going on. And then Jake would attempt to call me as well and attempt to coordinate with me on when, how filming needed to be made and aspects of the documentary. And I just simply wasn't there. That meant that our updates on Facebook were stalled, our updates on Twitter were stalled as well. And also, it probably was the weakest time we had donations. We were halfway there. We had a $1,000 donation, which was halfway to our $2,000 goal for getting the laptops. But money just simply wasn't coming in anymore. And for a little bit, it seemed like the project itself was in doubt, because if we couldn't raise that money, that means there's no laptops. And it was also at this time, I didn't talk to Govinda for a span of 3 weeks. So while I knew while Nick was meeting him, I didn't know his perspective on that and what he needed, and also his updates about his students as well. But luckily, with Nick's involvement, and I think even though in spite of these challenges, Nick's involvement and how Nick highlighted the school and the situation of the school, I think that's what galvanized our efforts, and that even though we had such challenges during that time, we knew that we had to overcome them for the benefit not only of Govinda but of his students. So luckily, about a week after that, we got a call from a business in Virginia called the Powerful Learning Practice, and they informed us that they were giving us a $1,000 donation to our project, which we met our goal. And this was huge for us. I think, I called Jake, and I was like jumping up and down. Jake was, incredibly happy as well. It was a huge day for the project.
It seemed like it was never actually, going to happen. Especially since this came right on the heels of everything that stall in donations and all that, and then all of a sudden here we are at our goal. It was just a lot to take in at the moment. It was it's still a lot to take in, really.
And, you know, we were receiving donations of $20 each, you know, so it seemed like we were a long way away. But then when the business was like, oh, here's $1,000, you got it, you know, it was almost too good to believe. So we then had to secure the wire transfer. This was difficult because we initially wanted to make just a PayPal transfer, but Govinda's bank doesn't offer PayPal, so there was no secure way to do that. So we had to figure out, we then had to wire the money to Govinda's account. And what we didn't realize was that there was a 10% tax on that wired money, which ate into our profit. But after talking to Govinda, he said that $1,800 would still be enough to cover the laptops and would still be okay if we could we could secure that money. So, but what Jake and I needed to do, the Center for Leadership and Learning has 5 administrators who approve all of their transactions. We had to make a presentation in front of these in front of these administrators at ESDAC explaining our cause so that they could authorize this transfer to be made.
And that was pretty nerve-wracking in of itself, because we figured that if we said just the wrong thing, or if we didn't show the conditions, then they just might back out, and then we would have no way of sending the money at all.
It turns out we overthought it. They were really cool about everything, and we didn't have to worry. But we eventually wired the money to the school, and about 2 weeks after that time, we had our first Skype conversation.
Alright, that was our first Skype call, which was an exhilarating moment for everybody. Actually, it took quite a bit of effort to even get that much of the Skype call actually through, because we spent about 2 or 3 hours trying to set everything up, because connectivity in Nepal is so low and Skype takes up so much bandwidth that it's really difficult to even have a 1-minute phone call, let alone enough to actually get something recorded and to show all of you. Yeah. Actually, like, we spent maybe a good hour and a half trying to keep Govinda online long enough so that we could send this call through. And it was right at the last second. Ben was actually closing his laptop right as Govinda actually sent the call through, and we were able to get it. So that was quite an amazing feeling to finally be able to see what you've been trying to achieve the whole time.
Fortunately though, now that we've gotten involved with the school, while the internet right now, obviously there's a struggle for connectivity, it also matters, the time of the day matters a lot too. But we just got informed about a week ago that a company called Lightspeed, who specializes in bringing internet, or part of their mission is to bring internet to lower connectivity or areas with lower connectivity. They informed us that in the next business cycle, they're going to essentially fund their product that would be able to have Skype conversations, but requires it's not much of a strain on their bandwidth. Meaning that they're essentially paying, the program itself is $1,500 and they're covering the cost completely. Also, schools, I got in contact with an administrator who oversees schools in Pakistan as well as other countries around the globe, and he's coordinating those 2 classrooms to work together, this classroom as well as those classrooms in Pakistan. So now that we have our foot in the door, we're starting to see that these projects are opening up for these students and that these learning opportunities are already expanding. So while the video, may not look too impressive, we know that it's on the horizon and we're going to be able to solve some of these problems. Now,
going to attempt to actually call Govinda.
And again, the internet connection is incredibly spotty, so no promises here, but we know that this is something that's definitely worth trying.
This may take a couple of tries as well.
Yeah. Hello? Also, we've never done a Skype call from the school too, so the school's internet maybe.
Hi.
Hey!
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear us? turn off. Hi. How are you doing?
I think that.
Here, we'll stop our video to.
Yeah, you're fine. It's candlelight. Yeah.
Hey! How are we doing? We're doing quite well. We're so happy that you can join us today. Right now, right behind me are the people watching our presentation, our judges of our presentation. Might not be able to explain that. Oh, I'm so happy that this worked out. Do you like the laptops? Oh. That's awesome. Oh, thank you. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me, to do this with us today. This was incredibly helpful. It means it means so much to us. Thank you so much. I'll be signing off. I'll be getting off right now, but I'll be back a little later, okay? Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you. That means so much. I'm really happy that I can help you. I can help you get this. Help you do this. I'm really happy.
Students are very excited to use the letter, and they really wanted to talk with you, but there is a problem with the connectivity. So, and
I promise you we'll figure that out and we'll be able.
anyway, I'm trying to keep them well.
I'm sorry. Can you say that again?
He was asking about the exams.
Oh, the exams.
Yeah.
They've gone
How to have
on the exams. They've gone really well, actually. I think this one's going pretty well, to be honest. This is our last exam, actually, of high school. This is, after this is college, and yes, and this one's going so well, and it's all thanks to you. It's all because of you that it's going so well. Otherwise, I don't know.
I'd like to thank you so much for even presenting us the opportunity to do this, because it just means a lot to me for you to be able to have the actually internet access.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and I hope everything is going well for you. We will be on a little later. We have to go right now, but we'll be right back, and I hope everything is going well. And it's because of you. It's because of you that this exam is going so well for us. What I'm taking there.
Yeah, I think like
What classes?
yeah.
This is about a project this is about the open world project, actually. This exam is surrounding open world. I also have like college algebra and AP honors English, I guess would be another one. And I've been taking a lot of classes. I want to be a teacher, so I've been trying to take classes which I volunteer at the elementary school here too. I take a lot of classes like that'll help me get there one day. I hope to be as good of a teacher as you are one day, Govinda. It's my goal. Anyways, we have to go now, but we'll be back. We'll see you later, okay?
Bye.
Bye.
It's a really wonderful time to talk with you. Bye.
Bye. We'll see you soon. Bye. But yeah, was Govinda with his daughter, who she goes to the school too. She goes to the SAB school, and
That it's actually. What time is it over there, Ben?
it's about 7. It's I think 7:10 right now. They're about an hour and 20 or 11 hours and 20 minutes off 7 p.m. there.
Yeah, it's time is an issue with trying to get these calls set up. So, but sometimes the connectivity is really low in the morning, it's really low at night, and trying to get those afternoon calls is really difficult since it would be like 4 o'clock in the morning over here when it's like 12 over there. So.
We at the very end, we would like to thank. There's a lot of people we would love to thank for this. That without these people, we couldn't have done it. Nick, obviously, Nick going to Nepal. My father, who I would say at the very beginning, he's the one who pushed us. He knew what it was going to take to do this project, and he was the one who kept us going. ESDAC for providing their premises and also for getting behind us at the Center for Leadership and Learning. And actually Nick Griffin too, he actually designed our t-shirts, and he did that without even asking. One day he was like, hey, you want a t-shirt? I was like, sure. And an hour later he sent a t-shirt design. And we'd also like to thank everyone else who contributed to the project, because without those people, we could not have done this. And I would also like to thank Govinda and his school too, because just being involved with him and his students has changed my life, and it's something I can always be proud of.
And Ben, I would like to thank you for even asking me to get involved with this, because it brought a lot of meaning to the ending of my high school career. So.
Well, I'd like to thank you for putting up with me, because I know I was a little bit all over the place sometimes, and without filming and without you holding me accountable too at the first part of the project, I don't think it would have been done. So, thanks, man.
So now we'd like to open the floor for questions. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time to ask.
I'm speechless. So do you think in the future you'll be continuing with this project? Are there more things you want to do for this particular school, or to widen your focus?
I think we're planning on, once we hopefully secure the internet access or the light speed communications, we're wanting to start a scholarship program where it only costs about $180 to send a child to a school in Nepal. And it's our goal to start a scholarship program where individuals can fund a student, and then once they're funding the student, they can just talk through Skype or through the Lightspeed program and actually meet the child that they helped, and they can continually contact the school. That's our initial goal. But another problem that arose in this project that we didn't touch upon too much was that about halfway through, it was actually during the time where it was really complicated and things were really a struggle for us. We found out through Nick and Govinda that they had 2 areas of the school was on 2 different areas, or 2 different, there were 2 different landowners for the school, and one of them revoked their lease and kicked half of the students out of that area in April. And he actually lost about 20 students because he lost half of his buildings. So one of our goals, we redirected the library money, we redirected some of that so that he can build another building so he can get his students back. And we're hoping after that point he will then be able to accept more students again, and then we can launch the scholarship program. As for other schools, I think so, with the Open World Project, with a name like that, why stop here? If all it took was, just an idea, between the 2 of us, and it shows that just a single idea can transform the lives of all of these students and these individuals across the globe. And I think if we can do this with one school, what's stopping us from spreading to others, and I think
You could say, like, Nick Law actually said something that was pretty powerful. He said that by telling at least one person, that person will tell another person, and it will spread to so many people that it's not just between us anymore. That it's not just us doing for each school. Everybody can get involved and help out as little or as much as they want.
Half of it, I think, is just about awareness. I think, right now, I know things are tough here, especially in education, in the United States. Things are incredibly tough for us, but when you see, the bare minimum, the resources that some of these schools have across the world, you see that Govinda started this school. He could have gone to a public school, but he wanted to go back to a mountain town where he grew up in that didn't have access to a school, and he started his own school. And what made things challenging for us at first was that it's a private school. That means all the public charities that we could have gone through for the project can't offer help to this school. Meaning this is really Govinda doing this on his own. And I think that, it shows, when you see people like Govinda who risk it all for the benefit of their students, it inspires people to try to help a cause like that. And we're still hopeful, we're now that our project's getting out to companies, like Lightspeed. We're hoping that, other companies can soon partner too. We can, I sent emails to a company in, another company who actually is in charge of our smart boards all over the school. And because they expressed interest at one time to my dad at a conference providing a free smart board to the school. And I think now that the project is opened up, I think this makes things like this possible, and now these students, who knows, a company might volunteer to build an entirely new school for these children.
So are you still taking donations then?
I think right now we kind of paused donations once we reached our goal because we didn't, technically we are, you can still donate if you want to, but we're not pushing for that anymore because honestly, we don't have a defined area for where we'd use that money, and we always wanted to be very clear about our mission. We always wanted to be able to tell our contributors where the money was going, whether it was for the library, whether it was to, the internet access, we always wanted to be very clear and open about what we were doing. And I think, we are still accepting donations, but right now there isn't like there's not a defined area for where those donations would go, I would say. But I would say check back in the summer, once Lightspeed gets involved, that could open the door for an entirely new mission of ours, and potentially, other schools in the area could get involved as well. The possibilities here are endless.
Did you mention the scholarship fund
For
the child?
Yeah, for the child, yeah, I did. And also, I think what we are doing, though, for sure, is that we are accepting, they have to pay, it's a yearly cost for internet, and so they have to pay, per year, and we're going to accept donations for, to make sure, it's only about $180 a year, but we're going to make sure that there's never a risk that they'll lose their internet connection. And I think another idea that we have is that we're setting up our website so that every hit gives us a certain amount of money. It's not a lot. We've made like $5 in the last 3 months, but we're hoping that we can send that profit as well to the school to hopefully maintain their internet.
Any more questions?
Okay, all right. Thank you
Very
very
much
much
for your time.